Hello and welcome to Team One Take a Podcast. My name is Holland. With me is Kindoufu. We're going to be trying something a little different. We kind of want to talk a little bit about our experiences at not only the EWC, but also kind of the HOK esports scene in general. And just kind of hopefully we kind of get into a bit of a flow and we talk about other games as well. But this is going to be, of course, the first episode that's going to be out there. Kindoufu, first off, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited as well. And honestly, it's been a bit tiring. I think, when we are at live events, I don't know about you, but I don't feel the fatigue. It kind of like goes with the flow all the way until the end of the event. And I reach home and it's like, bam, tired.
Yeah. Yeah, no, same experience. I only slept 3 days on the day of transit on the plane and whatnot. And the next day I slept 15 hours straight. I woke up and I was like, where am I? What's going on? Right. So a bit of an experience, even over my own self. I was kind of catching up on sleep quite a bit for the past week. I think things are back to normal now, which is kind of crazy. And I'm geared up and fired up and good to go. But okay, let's talk a little bit about the overall thoughts on the EWC just in general. Obviously, you were part of it last year, going into this one, the second time around. What were your overall thoughts on this one?
To be honest, the first one gave us quite a huge expectation, and I went into EWC, KWC not expecting too much because I felt like maybe there wouldn't be so big of a growth, from the last year to now. But I was pleasantly surprised. And just everything in general. The only critique I have was I wanted to stay in the same hotel as the players. Yeah, because that gave us a little bit more opportunities to interact with them. Obviously I didn't manage to get photos with AG and TT Global. But yeah, it's what it is. Everything else was great. The food was great. Food was much better this year. Room. Look, to me, bathed up means okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Actually, that was the biggest thing. In your room, did you have one bed or two beds? Two, yeah, I had two as well. It was super weird. I used the second one as just a closet because there's really no space to kind of put all our clothes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But very interesting hotel experience.
Yeah. I think my room was too messy to the point where the staff actually helped me fold my clothes and lay it across the bed because I was throwing shit everywhere.
Yeah. I came back to that because I usually have a laundry pile or whatever, and they actually folded all that stuff up, and I was like, oh my god, what is clean, what's not anymore? I was very confused.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the hotel was great. To catch up on the other points, the food was actually a big step up from last year, especially at the venue, which was absolutely terrible last year.
Okay, I won't say absolutely terrible. I mean, okay, so to give a little bit of backstory to what happened in 2024. So we were given bento boxes, right? Bento boxes, right? For us to have our lunch and whatnot. And I made the mistake of eating Holler's lunch pack. A honest mistake. He doesn't believe it, but it's an honest mistake because I do not read the names on the labels. I was like, oh, this one looks good. So I went to eat it and it was bland. Bland as shit. And I was like, this food sucks. And Paul was quite upset when he found out that number one, not only was I complaining about the food, but number two was the fact that I had eaten his food. So he had nothing left. Yeah.
Yeah, so to add on to this, just know that I'm normally not a guy who likes to hold grudges, but this is a grudge that I will never let pass. Because of the fact that I was vegetarian at the time, I have a very strict diet, and then this dude eats my food, and then I had nothing to eat because there was nothing left, and post lunch time, so there was nothing, on the table, so to speak. So I was more hangry more than anything else, but it was one of those things where I locked in my head. I was like, no. I'm not forgiving him. Okay, he's not getting away so easy.
Yeah, so I got my karma in a way. The talent manager, our talent manager last year was Kelly, and she came in. She was furious. I've not been scolded like that in a while.
To be honest, I didn't know that. I did tell Kelly. I was like, yeah, Kin just ate my food, and it was like, it's not a big deal. Kind of move on, kind of thing. Like all jokes aside, right? But apparently she was on basically angry mode, and she was stepping up for me. So props to Kelly on that one.
Yeah, but she still loves and cares for us quite a bit. I actually bumped into her earlier. I think second week of our event. Yeah, so it was nice to get to see her again. But it was a very, very short moment. She was actually slamming the men's bathroom door open and shouting for PUBG players, PUBG players. And I was like, who is this? Who's this lady screaming in the toilet? And I was like, oh, hang on, wait, she looks damn familiar. Like, oh shit, it's Kelly. Yeah. So that was the way that we found out that, oh, okay, we're still here. Yeah.
So okay, all right. So you caught her literally trying to invade the men's restroom. And did you have the discussion? You're like, oh yeah, you were our talent manager last year.
No discussion. It was just like, hey, Kelly, what's up?
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
must have been super awkward. But okay. Yeah, I think that's the other point to the EWC. What were your thoughts just overall on the Boulevard?
To be honest, I don't think there were much changes per se. I think maybe just placements of stuff, but across the board, it has always been fun. I think this year we got a little bit more access for sure. I heard that,
Yeah.
okay, so one of the things that in the Boulevard this year, which I don't remember last year, was the Content Creator Park, CCP, right?
Same. Yeah.
So CCP apparently is only allowed to people who buy tickets. And we didn't buy. I heard that we were actually allowed in because there was a miscom. They thought we were someone else, which was why we were allowed into the park for free. But
Interesting.
CCP
Okay.
was pretty cool because CCP to us held a different kind of experience. I mean, obviously we were there to look at all the influencers, the teams, the pop-ups, experiential activations, as what I know, right? So we got to play a little bit of futsal, we got to play a little bit of basketball. But more importantly, we ran into our previous host for Honor of Kings, which was Bara. So Bara was on a stage with Sky last year, and he brought us on a personalized tour around like the entire arena and explaining to us what's gonna happen. Yeah.
Actually, the funniest thing about that was that while he was giving us the tour, he was just like giving out those like public statements, the PSAs about like, oh yeah, it's like closing at like 3 p.m. or whatever, like, and then this booth is opening or whatever it was, but it was doing it on the fly as he was giving us the tour. Always the professional. Baro is absolutely hilarious. Actually, we should have met up with him. Unfortunately, we weren't not able to on that day off. But yeah, we definitely need to keep in touch with him because he's just a great guy. He's just a really good guy in that sense. But okay, let's talk a little bit, shift gears a bit. Let's talk a little bit about the KWC. Just your overall experience, because it was 2 weeks, which is a lot longer than last year's. Things were definitely different.
Okay, so to put it into perspective, I think we have to compare it with the first year, all right, of KWC. So when we came over, number one, the major difference is that the KPL teams were allowed to play in group stages, right, last year. And it was just rampage after rampage after rampage, right?
Yeah.
Destruction
Yeah.
in them.
Yeah.
But this year, they actually slaughtered the KPL teams into the playoffs, which I thought was a much smarter move, a much better move also, which also kind of destroyed my initial expectations. I thought it was going to be similar to last year, where we were going to have very strong teams come in and just crush everyone. But literally from day one, series one, it was just big games all the way, even though it was a BO3.
Yeah. Actually, I absolutely agree, right? I think that was the biggest surprise. It's just like everybody, like the parity between the different teams has actually gone down so much that all of the series were super competitive. And I think that the regional leagues have really helped some of these teams really level up because there was not a single one where you're like, this is a complete blowout, or, there were some serious upsets. There was a lot of just overall good things for the scene, especially in the groups stage. But going into the playoffs, we still had a little bit of that stomping of those, the KPL teams coming in, right?
I think that was expected, right? To be honest, I was expecting a lot more in a sense where,
True.
year one of Honor of Kings was in a global scene. It was more of like, 8-10 minute games. But this year, it was a little longer, 15 minutes, roughly like that.
Yeah.
Almost 150% of the time. 0.5.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good improvement. And I think the biggest surprise for me was, okay, maybe not surprise, but the biggest hope was that one of the global teams could have taken one game off of the KPL teams, and that happened. So I was very, very happy with that. Yeah, and it was not something like, Oh, they just edged it out. It was a complete domination, right? Albeit it's just one game, but still, it shows that yes, there is a potential, and all of the behind the scenes talk about, okay, there's this huge gap that global teams need to fill. Yes, there is a huge gap, but it's not as big as what I initially thought it would be.
Yeah, yeah. I think going into that one, the KPL teams, especially in game one, it's like a feel out process where it didn't seem like they were just like pedal to the metal, just go, just dominate, right? I think that they were really trying to see what the enemy team or, all the opposing teams, what they were going to bring, and they would kind of react accordingly. Not to say that it's a bad thing for, either TTG or AGAL, but I think that it was overall, like, I think that you do this regardless, right? And especially in game one where you don't know, you've never played against this team, right? And yeah, you have some like replay and you can kind of see some of the data and things like that. But all in all, it's like a feel out process. And I think that they were like completely surprised. TTG, that is, going up against Nova Esports, which is the one that you were talking about with that complete shellacking, right?
Yeah.
But that was a great series. But, look, TTG are like, we lost the game. It's not like it's a best of 7. I mean, come on. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's like, yeah, you got there first to the first checkpoint, but we got a long way to go.
I think it was super interesting because okay, we know fandoms are very big, very strong.
True.
And okay, so when that game was happening, we were not the ones casting, right? It was Blam and Sagi. So we were in the green room, and Dave was behind us, and Dave was reading the watching the game on the Chinese platforms, and like the chat was just all of the insults, like what are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I would say what insults they were because some of them were pretty harsh, but it's quite funny because like I think fans also give another part of the KWC experience that people don't really know about, right? It's actually the fans that make the experience super fun for us. Like in week 1, okay, there's always going to be hate comments, there's always going to be interesting comments. And I think we need all of that in order to make it very interesting,
Yeah, I mean, keeping things spicy as much as possible, right? But I think that teams need to really be invested in a team, right? Like they've seen this, and then there's like a little bit of like legacy, right? I think that we're seeing there are question marks with some of the other teams that didn't really perform, and there's going to be a shakeup in terms of like roster. I'm not going to go into any of the rumors or things that we've heard right now, but we do know that some of the teams are going to be, changing it up, right? I think that there was some lackluster play by some of the players as well as some amazing play. So, I mean, those guys will continue and things like that. It's going to be interesting seeing what they want to pull out going into the regionals coming up in the next month or so, and where those teams are. But, right now, I think that the top dog, at least from the global side, has got to be Nova Esports, right?
Yeah, it has to be them.
Yeah.
Like there's no way. I mean, with the way that they played, and unfortunately, for OG fans, therefore that came as a huge sucker punch because even I was not expecting. Like even if I were to say that, yeah, maybe they would have lost, not in this fashion. 4-0 was a shocking wake up call. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I had that as well. I mean, look, I thought like Nova Esports had not lost the OG Esports. So to predict against them, I think that you're just like really, really wishful thinking at the end of the day. But going into that series and like, it's a whole thing that, and then this was like the theme throughout with all of the longer series is that you lose a game, you're kind of shell shocked, and then you have a hard time really coming back into a series. Like the momentum is definitely there on the enemy side, and so teams are really struggling. Like if you have that winning momentum and you're able to kind of continue, you're going to do great. But even into that last, what was it, the Kings qualifier, where OG lost. That was heartbreaking for them, and that kind of continued even into the playoffs.
It did. I think it definitely messes you up, which is something that even in like the Chinese server, right? There's something that all coaches talk about, which is actually winning all the time is not a good thing.
True.
Which then, KWC kind of like, oh yeah, winning is not really a good thing because teams like OG, teams like Nongshim Red Force, they had a very dominant performance in their pro league, right? And then when they came onto the world stage, where they were handed their first ever loss, then suddenly everything just came crumbling down, and it's like, yeah, now you start to see, right? Because now teams will punish you for every single mistake. You can't make like one mistake and expect to be able to recover quickly or to drag the game until it's late game and come back in a spectacular fashion. It doesn't really happen that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, kind of on that point, I think the biggest thing for me and the biggest team that I was disappointed about was Nongshim Red Force, right? They had an amazing time at KME, and they looked at like the top dogs or whatever. But it just like kind of to your point, they didn't really have a whole lot of losses. They didn't really get tested, and so I think that there was like this air of overconfidence of them just like steamrolling some of these other teams, and you're kind of seeing exactly like OG had a great time with like Twisted Minds. They really tested them, and they kind of put them into their the fire, so to speak, of just like how this team is really going to improve. But Nongshim didn't really have that, and you can kind of see once those losses started to amass, it was like this team really cannot recover.
Yeah, I know you were super disappointed. Like
I was.
Holler was so sad that day. And he was like, "What are you guys doing?"
Yeah, I was super upset. I mean, it was like because they were making uncharacteristic mistakes. They were like completely like they were playing from behind, but they were trying to force the issue and taking even more risk. And the team just really crumbled. It was a really poor showing by Nongshim at the end of the day.
I mean, I don't know. It depends on how you play the game, right? To me, it's like, look, there's always going to be a risk with whatever that you choose to do in the game. So I don't fault them for it. I don't think it's a wrong choice. Could they have done better? For sure, you can always do better, right? But yeah, I think it's a good learning lesson. It still stays to the point, right? In esports, especially in HOK, like I legitimately feel that the L does not stand for lose. It is really for you to learn, right? Can you pick out the mistakes that you made during the game? Do you know why you failed? I think failing is really not the issue. Is you need to understand why you fail, and once you understand why you fail, then it's kind of like, okay, let's go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like just not that. Like it seemed like they were making very simple mistakes, right? Like Haku not even getting any sort of farm was like just trying to take the fights 1 versus 3. Like just, I mean, this is something that we've seen from Nongshim, but it was not the time, right? You got to like hold back, and to do it at the KWC with a 3 million USD prize pool in best of threes, like this is not the time to be taking any sort of like risky play.
True. I mean, okay, but at the end of the day, there will be some time that you have to take a risk, right? I think this particular World Series and this World Cup showed that I think restraint is more important. Yeah, restraint definitely is much more important. You can see that with the KPL teams, right? The way that they played. And also comes down to like understanding of how the game flows for you as a team, right? And I think because they have had just that tad bit more experience, I think tad bit is a bit of an overkill, but no, a lot more experience in that sense. It kind of allows them a little bit more mental stability, right? More room to breathe, because to them it's like, oh, I've seen this before, right? Okay, this is probably what they're gonna do. So now they already have like prep work on what to do next if a certain situation presents itself. Then it's like, okay, let me do this instead, right? Option A, B, C, D. Yeah.
Okay. Just unfortunately, there's really not a lot of time, and I think that that's also why the group stage was just so great, because everything was like do or die, and you had to just play to the maximum. You don't really have time to really like sit back and be like, we lost this one. Let's like, how do we bounce back? It's more of like, okay, just next game, we got to go. Oh, this elimination. All right, we just got to go. And I kind of seeing some of that like pressure, high stakes, games just brought out the best in all the teams. And I think that like a lot of the teams like that were surprising, at least from my end, really stepped up. I'm going to look again, just Team Vitality, Twisted Minds. Both of these teams Twisted Mind's definitely on the radar, but I did not expect them to be top 4, right?
Really? Oh, okay.
Oh, no way.
We will talk about that, but okay, my end, let me talk about what team surprised me the most first. I think it was ACT Esports Club. They are the ones that really surprised me, because I remember mentioning over and over again, look, these guys came from Open Series. They are a legit like grassroots community team. So to make it into KWC is already miracle number 1.
True.
And then to play the way they did they play against Twisted Minds? Was it them?
I need to check. I don't remember the exact.
But they had one series against Pause, I think, or something like that.
I think it's Pause. Yeah.
Like they performed well, and I was like, hang on, like this is a grassroots team. How come, how are they playing like this? And then, with pre KWC, there was a lot of information about them saying that, hey, they're the mini blacklist and all that. And for them to outperform blacklist, at least in terms of like standings performance, I think, that's huge.
Yeah. So ACT lost 1-2 to Alpha.
Okay, Alpha.
Dropped into the lower bracket, and then 1-2 to Nongshim, and they made an exit. But yeah, I mean, taking off games off of Alpha Gaming, third place in MKL, and then Nongshim Red Force, which again I was speaking very highly of. Yeah, it speaks volumes for that. But I think that this is a team that's more than anything else. It's like, yeah, they like kind of easy out. They lost the first two series, and they're kind of out on this one. But I think that they're going to take these lessons and really grow moving forward.
Okay. I have something that I want to talk about. So obviously we have the game, we have the teams, but also I want to talk about the talents, right? So coming into...
Who do you want to bash? Let's go. Go. Green light.
Coming into KWC, what was your expectations as HOK caster? Because, okay, for those of you that don't know, both of us came at the same time and we were paired together as a duo. And I think because of our previous experiences casting together, I don't think we had a lot of casting experience together. Like, we didn't really do a lot of games.
Yeah.
But to come to HOK, to do it on the world stage and to do it a second time, what were your expectations for this?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I wanted a little bit more stability going in the sense that, like, last year we were kind of like, okay, you're going to do analyst, you're going to do studio, you're going to do casting, you're going to do everything, right? And we're kind of like just thrown from part to part. That was an interesting experience. It was a good one because you got overall with everything, right?
Yeah.
This one, I think that the biggest thing for me, I was just like, okay, if I'm going to be a caster, I want to be in the casting booth. If I'm going to be studio, I want to be, you know what I mean? Like, at least I'm one thing, right? So that I know what to expect and kind of prepare mentally for, and of course doing all the research and all that, right? So that was going to be key. But going into this one, I did not expect, like, again, we were stuck in the casting booth. I think you did a little studio time, but the biggest thing for me was the black booth that we're kind of stuck in the casting booth.
Second week, right?
Yeah, second week. It was like this airtight thing where, I was wondering if we would die at the end of the day. I'm not sure. But it was an interesting one because, like, you want to be in front of the crowd. They had live fans, right? To be able to do that. And your voice is definitely being projected throughout in the stadiums. But to be then stuck in the booth on the side, that was kind of like, I didn't really want that. I wanted to be there.
Yeah, I also wanted that experience. In fact, like, okay, if you're talking about upgrades, I think the experience of our voices projecting onto the arena much better this year. So year one, when we were also in Amazon Arena, right? Year one, yeah, and I
remember
the stage was different with the curved screen and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Our voices were really soft because I remember that production was telling us that another arena complained that they were too loud, which was why they kind of like lowered our volume during our week. But this year for KWC, like, our voices were heard pretty nicely because I was there, we were there, we sat down to watch a couple of the games, and then you could hear everything very clearly, even with the fans cheering, at least to what I've heard. Yeah,
it was definitely much better. I mean, the stadium, like, it was way better than last year, right? Last year, it's like they opened it up the entire week, so people would kind of trickle in, and you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't all full. People didn't seem to understand, like, what games are going on. But this one was very specific to, like, okay, one of the teams playing, what's going on, so that there was like a schedule in that sense. So the fans of the teams were there at the right time. Okay, and the stadium setup was, it seemed like they had a lot more people. Definitely towards the end, and with all the KPL teams, I mean, I would say that they were completely booked. Especially towards the later stages of this, the playoffs. But it was very interesting seeing some of these fans because they came in with, like, drums, they had mascots, they had, like, the full-on everyone, right? Was just, like, showing up to just, like, cheer on for their team, right?
I mean, that's the cool part because even for us in our previous casting experience, right, we also had people playing drums. It was a live arena, but it was not enclosed. Like, it's not a actual arena. It was more of an open space the previous time, right? And then now that we have the same experience, but it's a more enclosed venue, still big, but enclosed enough to be able to hear the fans cheer, jeer, and the drums banging and that kind of thing, I feel like that always gives you something more. I don't know, in terms of cast, which is why I agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think like I would
yeah.
prefer not to be in the booth. Yeah, I mean, given a choice, would definitely be wanting to be like at the venue itself and like
Yeah.
shoutcasting.
That was like the biggest difference. I mean, when we did it in like Jakarta, right, where we were doing it live and you could hear the cheers and like the vibration and like it like just pumped you up. It got to the point where maybe we were a little too pumped up at times because the you know what I mean, like you're feeling it, like the tension and everything, right? And that was a great motivator in that sense. But I mean, going back to this one, like the only true issue and being in the box, you're kind of like you're comfortable. You're not like you don't have to like you understand your volume control. You're never really going to lose your voice.
Yeah.
I know that I have in previous events, but being locked in and you kind of have that basically isolation kind of helped at with certain things. There are definitely pros and cons. The worst part being, of course, there was no bathroom in the building, so you had to like go outside, bring rations so that you make it to the bathroom and then back, right, and get a little sunburn on the way. But yeah.
We actually had to like run. Remember there was one cast and we were asking the producer like, okay, how much time do we have? And then you left first and you were running. And before I went, I was thinking like, okay, do I really need to use the toilet? It's just I think like one more game or something like that. And he was saying, actually, you have 9 minutes. And I was like, oh, 9 minutes. And as I was running, I forgot to tell you that we have 9 minutes. And only when we were back in the room did I tell you like, oh, yeah, we have 9 minutes. So we ran for nothing.
Oh yeah. No, I was gonna sprint out. I wasn't gonna just like I didn't even wait for that call. I was just like, I'm going. I know we have time. I think we're gonna be fine. But yeah, just like I think that was like the biggest issue there, right? Being able to just like, how do you not have a bathroom in that building? That's the craziest thing to me, right?
Okay. Thank you, Cloud C. Thank you for the follow. Hi, Lema. So yes, we are doing this on our own in Discord first, but I'm also live streaming this. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to post in the chat, and the meet conversation when it comes up, I will post that question for us if you have any. But yeah, I think definitely this year was a unique experience. But there's one schedule change that I really like, which was the fact that because there's a backstory for this, the OG Nongshim game, which made you and Blam came as a duo, and then me and Sagi as a duo. I thought that one was really fun because, okay, obviously there are people that like it, there are people that love it, and then there are people that hate it. In terms of like the synergy, I felt it was super fun because like with the two of you going like at loggerheads, I think that's what makes it interesting because now you actually have support for both ends.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the funnier ones, I would say, because generally speaking, as like a caster, you want to be neutral, you want to pretend like everything, you know what I mean? Like you don't care about who's winning, but like we were clearly invested in a team going into this one. So I think we balanced each other out with our favoritism going in, and tried to, again, just I think we had a great, fun time. That was the only time we casted to get. Oh no, we did it on the final day as well, but that was definitely more serious in that sense, and definitely not as casual as that one where we were kind of going at it. But at the end of the day, it was all fun and games. I would have said, I would have loved for Nongshim to have won so that I could rub it in, but just Nongshim just decided not to show up to the KWC.
Too bad. I mean, that's the only way we can say it, right? But of course, with that being said, majors will happen again, right? Major East, Major West, they'll be happening. There'll be a fall season, and then we'll see, right? What kind of standards have these teams risen to? At the same time, okay, this year KWC, I think one of the big things for me is that I finally bought merch. Yeah, like I finally bought something from there because year one, it was completely new to us. We only had like I think a week to prepare. We got the news like 1 week before we were supposed to fly, something like that. So there wasn't a lot to prepare. We didn't know what to bring. But this year, knowing that okay, number one, we are going to go there. We had a lot more time to plan, prep, and pack. I purposefully left some space in my luggage so that I could go and acquire like merchandise. And we did get like merch last year. From HOK, but I wanted more in the sense where I wanted like team jerseys, I wanted jackets, I wanted hats, which everything on the list was fulfilled because like we got hats, we got jerseys, we got jackets. I bought
Yeah.
the jacket. I wanted another jacket, did not come. What else? What else do we buy? Yeah, the only thing maybe I would say is like we didn't get to eat the
The
restaurant.
local.
Yeah. That,
yeah.
that one would have been fun.
To be honest, yeah, working backwards from what you just said, we didn't really take advantage of being able to go out other than having the hotel food. I was super sick of hotel food by the end of the trip. But it was good up until the end. I think towards the end where I was just like, all right, I just want my basics and get out because I'm getting sick of this. It's the same menu. But in terms of like bringing stuff,
Yeah.
like it's funny because I like overpacked and I had gifts for
really?
people
Okay.
and things like that. It was like, I've never gone over 25, kilos that is, in terms of like a
okay.
check-in. I was at 27 when I was checking in. I was like, wow, this is heavy. I've never done that, right?
Okay.
But on the way back, like I'd given everything away. I had like, I brought snacks, I brought things like that, and I was definitely eating that. And I was like, this is definitely gonna be less.
Uh-huh.
But with all the merch that we got in return, it was 27 on the way back. Like, so yeah, all in all, net, I didn't lose much apparently. I actually might have gained in the end, but yeah, just like an overall, like I got this awesome Nova jersey, and all this stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I'm actually looking for mine. I don't know where it went. I'm going for like futsal later, so like I'm gonna wear it and play.
Oh, okay. I did not steal yours. Just want to be very clear with that.
Yeah. Also, to be clear, we stay in Singapore, but we stay very far away from each other for good reason, right? You know what? We see each other almost every time on the broadcast. We don't have to see each other every day.
Yes, for sure. All right, so let's now, shift gears a bit. Okay, one last thing on EWC. Is there anything that you want to kind of, other than maybe bathrooms in the casting booth, like building, is there any other feedback that really needs to be kind of something that you would want the EWC moving forward?
We wanted to be live in the arena.
Yeah.
No, I don't think there's much. Maybe, okay. Maybe we can dictate that all teams have to give us one piece of merch.
Who are you, Blam? that's such a Blam thing to say. Anyway, yeah, no, while I do agree, some of the merch is actually very cool. I wore the Twisted Minds jersey on the way home, and I had a layover in Doha, and actually some random kid went up to me and goes, "Are you a Twisted Minds player?" And I was like, "No, I'm just a fan." And he goes, "Oh," and he just like walked off. But I was like, the respect is there when I'm wearing the jersey. So
Yeah.
other teams that want a little free advertising, come at me, bro.
Not just him, me too. I mean, okay, so here's my pitch. When we came back, obviously I had another event to cast for HOK, and one of the audience members came up to me and was like, "Are you the EWC caster for HOK?" And I was like, "Yes, that's me." And it's like, "Oh, can you record like say hi to my friend in PH?" And I was like, "Do you know Shimbu?" So shout outs to Shimbu. We have never met in person, but I know who you are. If you don't know me, that's fine as well. But I know who Shimbu was, and it was like, "Oh, he's a fan or a friend of Shimbu, so like, can you give him a shout out?" So it's like, "Okay, I did it." So he said, "Oh, do you know that people in PH know you?" And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, I actually have people who recognize me for what I'm doing now, which is number one, great validation, because I think both you and I, we have put a lot of work into, this whole esports experience as a caster, as a talent, as a figure, I guess." Hi, Eugene.
Okay, yeah. So no, it's been great in that sense, right? And I think that the best thing is that it's like the regularity, right? The consistency and the fact that we're able to kind of grow with the different leagues. I think that that's been the most important thing. We're seeing a lot of like roster swaps and players kind of going out, and as they grow, we grow as well. And we're seeing just like, dare I say, some of our guys that we really liked way back in the day, like season 2, have really even grown even better as we go into the KWC, right? So there's a lot of continued storylines that can go on with that, and that I think that for me has been the best part about all of this journey, right? And just kind of staying consistent, because if again, like you do a cast for another game or whatever, you're there for maybe like an event, but it's like a simple thing, like you know what I mean? Like it's a minor thing in the grand scheme of like the esports journey. But this is it's all about consistency, right?
Yeah.
But let's I think that that's a perfect segue into just moving forward, right? If we're talking about these future leagues, and again, we saw the regionals and we saw a lot of success with the bringing up some of these teams and the leveling up. Let's talk about just like the, you know, PKL, IKL, MKL, like which one are you looking forward to the most here?
I don't think there's one. In fact, okay, I'm gonna have to go generic here because I think every single league has learned a lot through playing with the KPL teams. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember the video that we were taking of the draw? So my video was 11 minutes long, the one where everyone was chanting like, "Oh, G Nova," that kind of thing. And we also got the reaction of ZenQ when he drew TTG, right? TT Global.
Yeah.
And I think after all the games, every single team has now new homework, new research. And
Yes.
I feel like this fall season of HOK is going to be unreal. Like the gap is going to be super clear. Hi, Rosen K. Yeah, it's insane because now, like, not just the teams playing. Okay, there's another portion of this conversation which I think we will dive into later, which is the BTK and Doggy's team, right? The big 3. Yeah, but everyone has done their homework. You know, people streaming now. Everyone streaming now. It has clearly learned a lot of what's going on in the KPL region, and they are taking that information. And I think, yeah, we'll start to see, you know, the monsters that we were hoping to grow.
So I do agree with you in the sense that the teams have actually gotten that firsthand experience and they've kind of taken their licks and like learned their lessons. But just playing devil's advocate here. Those teams have been able to watch some of these teams like in the KPL. They've had those replays for years. What is about playing firsthand is so different than just being like, hey, this is what they do on, you know, like last year's KPL. Like what is the biggest difference there?
Personal experience. It's the same as sports fans watching sports, right? So I know your reference will be like NFL, NBA, that kind of thing. Watching the game and playing the game are two completely different things. You can understand why certain things are done, but the physical restraint, the physical strain, the mental strain, you don't understand that until you actually experience it. And I think that's going to be a very big difference maker, which is why you see teams like, example, Nongshim, right? Nongshim, season 3, they lost against Nova. When they showed up into majors, they were so much more stronger. They were so much cleaner. And now with this experience going from KWC, I think every single league is just going to explode. All the big teams that have learned from the KPL teams had the pleasure of playing against them. Yeah, they're going to be so much stronger now because now they know exactly why certain things work, why certain things can be tried, and limit tests essentially, and know when to overstep your boundaries. I think that has been the biggest lesson for global teams, which is actually there are certain situations that if KPL teams make a certain play, they are punishable. But the global teams don't have the confidence to punish them because they're like, oh, you're so strong, right? And then this is where you limit tests. Like, actually, why did they get away with that? You know, that kind of thing? Yeah.
Okay. But I just think that's... Like, I agree with certain points. I think that definitely playing firsthand, you're going to experience that. But I think that especially in the early game where it's more mechanical, dare I say, of like, it's very structured of like what teams want to do, certain timings, you know what I mean? They're going to be making movements and things like that, right? I think that that's definitely not... that's something that they don't need firsthand experience. They can be watching some of those replays, have a good coach, a good scribe, and understand where the movements will be so that they're prepared in like the best position possible or to counter move or whatever they need to do. I think that the first 10 minutes, I think that, you know, if they have the research and with those replays, I think that they don't need that. I think the firsthand experience of surviving the mid to late game is probably where things are a little bit more, I need to feel that before I go in, right? So I'm kind of on the fence on that one. I do understand your points. It's just more of like, it didn't seem like they were 100% prepared because some of these games were like 15 minutes, 13 minutes, right? And you didn't really have much of a mid game.
Which is okay. honestly, I think against KPL teams, that's okay because generally KPL games end in 15 minutes, right? If it's
That's true.
a storm in a way, then 15 minutes is the general duration, right? Yes, it's not rare to go into Dragon games, but that is, I think, the biggest marker of difference between global teams and KPL teams now, which is in KPL teams, they know exactly when to push the advantage. Not just when, but how to push the advantage, right? They don't just grow, they stop you from growing also. I think that's one trait that global teams need to learn really quickly in order to be able to compete at the next level. And then also, how do you stave off pressure? How do you hold the game and drag as long as you can? Right, I think that
Yeah.
one is the most painful lesson that every single team has had learned at KWC, which is why I think this year was much better because teams knew how to hang on a little bit more, and
Okay.
then
Okay.
those gave us those like fire series. Like day one, we had I was watching
Yeah,
the
yeah.
replay.
At the playoffs?
Alpha 7 loops, our day one. Like
Day one,
that
day one.
game,
Okay.
starting was Alpha 7. It was a scream for Niap. His Dharma was like, bang, 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 let me punch you in the face. And then Loops came back in game number one. Like now you can see where and how you should drag games. And to
Yeah.
us as talents, I think also because we are able to now see the teams do it, then it makes us even more excited because it was things that we had hoped for, but it was never presented. As a talent, that was something that was very difficult to deal with, right? Like we watch all the different leagues, we learn from all the different regions, and we know that, hey, these are some things you can do, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
So come KWC, when teams actually make use of that strategy and that learning process, then it's like, oh, now we have a game, now we have a series, and like these teams are much higher level, and that's why it's the entire KWC was just excitement for me because everyone
Yeah,
was
yeah.
trying to be their best, legit.
Yeah, yeah. I think that going into that, I mean, just kind of talking a little bit more about week one was a lot of the teams had a lot of familiarity with one another, right? So that's why you're going to see really competitive games. And I mean, you're talking about Alpha 7 Loops, they've gone from Chuck BR. So, you know what I mean? Like they know how the other team plays. But going back to the whole KW or the KPL teams, right? Yes, they were learning, and KPL teams are definitely dominating, especially in these longer series. But it makes it sound like and I'm not here to like gaslight here, but it kind of sounds like you're trying to. It kind of sounds like you think that the lessons I mean, they're going to be much better, definitely in their regions. But I'm just worried about the caveat of just being like, they're still not going to be good enough going into the KPL, going into the Challengers Cup at the end of the year, right? Going up against these other KPL teams. Like, this is still like a learning process. It's still going to take years to get to that level, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying that they will be strong enough to, take one more game off of a KPL team. Bear in mind that if this is not a simulation, right? This is not a robot per se where they stop learning, right? Or KWC ends or they stop learning. No way. The KPL teams are definitely going to be improving. And once again, as a reminder to everyone, these are patches they have played before. These are metas they have revisited. So it's not super new to them. Maybe some information might be lost over time in a sense where they need a little bit of what's that called? Homework, but it's kind of like doing times table, right? You have memorized your times table from childhood. 10 years later, they ask you to repeat the same. You might not do it as fast, but generally over time with practice, it comes back naturally to you again.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way, 8 times 8.
What? 64.
Okay, all right. Just making sure you just okay, part.
Wait. Okay, so this one, this portion is why also I want to do the podcast because now we can actually address questions. So Boosted has come in. Thanks for joining. So he said, Cap, he or she, Cap, the KPL teams had a advantage not playing till playoffs.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you why that's not the case. If they had played from group stages all the way to playoffs, the global teams would have been crushed even faster. And grand finals would have not happened the way it did.
Yeah. and it seems like, and just to kind of address that, while it seems like why did they get the easy route? It's you actually make the league better because those teams will play against each other and even outside of the regions, and so those teams can kind of like we had some fire games. I don't know if you watched like week 1, but those were some amazing group games. But it would have been less fun if you just see like the KPL teams come in from the beginning and just dominate everybody, right? Put everybody into the lower and just knock them out. It seems like it's why do they get the royal treatment? It's just like, oh, they're just on another level, right? And then even in the playoffs, we had an opportunity where we're like, okay, these are like as the global team representative, these are our guys, these are our champions, so to speak. And like Nova Esports, like going up against that, like who had any team going up against any KPL team and pulling out a single victory, and Nova was the only one, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Okay,
Yeah.
so for Soul Boosted, yes, they did beat TT Global for one match. But if you take a look at the remaining 4 games that they won in a row, it's a best of 7, by the way. It was a bit difficult because, as Holler mentioned, the KPL teams coming into game number 1, it was more of a feel out, right? How do you guys play this game, right? In comparison to the premier teams in KPL, and it was very clear that they didn't really have much control. It's quite tough because I think unless you really step into the competitive space and play against these teams, you wouldn't get the full experience of why it's so hard to play against a KPL team, right? It's a little bit skewed in a sense because on broadcast we can see everything. The map is completely clear. There is no fog of war. Every now and then, the observer will show us like, oh, okay, here's what's the vision they have of the teams. So we don't actually get the full difficulty of why teams struggle against KPL teams, which I think is no mistake of anyone. I think it's just how the game is presented, right? And I definitely read the comments every day on the live stream after we come back to the hotel. And I think it's regardless of how much research you can do, it comes down to your actual performance of the game as well. Like I have competed professionally before, even before HOK. So there is a very distinct line whether you can do well against a good team and why you struggle against a good team, essentially.
Yeah, and just to further add on, I think that it really hero picks are not the biggest thing for any of those TTG or AGAL. Like they could have picked anything. I think that it's just more of execution and how they did it. Like if you're looking at some of the picks that they had, very unconventional picks at times, right? And they were able to kind of just outclass at the end of the day. To be honest, I think they could have picked anything and they would have still pulled out the victory.
True. So for Soul Boosted, I get your point, right? Saying that there's no research on the 2 KPL teams in global setting. Do you agree? Would research have helped them with draft? Because I honestly, based on your previous point, draft was never the issue. Look, KPL teams picked out the lane. The lane is trash in like stats in the game, and they still got destroyed, right? And it's meta picks are meta for a reason, but also because the way the game is played, they are mostly played on equal settings. Why certain picks are not favored by global teams? Example, Zhuangzi never came up at all before KPL teams arrived, right? The lane never came up before the KPL teams because they were consistently on equal grounds. But when KPL teams come, they know that they will be able to get a goal advantage, EXP advantage, map advantage, which is why certain picks still are available for them. And end of the day, it's not just hero picks, it's the players. They really play much better as a team. If you take a look how the KPL teams play.
Yeah, actually, which kind of like, I mean, the experience was whatever it was, right, at KWC, right? I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from this, right? Can the global teams play with the KPL teams? Yeah, at least Nova, at least for now. I mean, yes, it was a 1-4, but I mean, taking on a game is pretty big props to them, right? Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be about the Challenger series, right? Which is going to be in December, is in China, from what I know, and there's going to be a ton of KPL teams. What version of the game they use, not really sure, but it's going to be exciting to see, and then that we'll see exactly the research and all of the different strategy of like the deeper dives, because all of the teams, I'm assuming, will be in one big pool and they'll figure things out with like the groups and everything like that. That's going to be the true test. But I think that this was just like a teaser more than anything else.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I was excited over the draw, but I know every single person in the venue was gutted that AG did not go against TT Global at the start, right? Because that would have opened up the doors for potentially two global teams to get second, third, right? Because one of them would have been knocked out.
But if they played each other earlier, it would have been like technically the grand finals of who wins, and then the other one would have just been like, do they really have a chance? You know what I mean? Like it would have been different.
Yeah, a different storyline, but in terms of like prize winnings and all that, I think it would make a huge difference, right? And so boosted, to your point, here's my statement. End of the day, if as a professional, you're meant to be proficient with all heroes. So I don't think there's an excuse. Whether there's research or not, you should know what a hero is meant to do, what the role of the hero is there for. Why global teams did not take up certain heroes was because they felt like it was too much of a risk. Zhuangzi is a known counter to Dharma. And this one is nothing to do with like teams playing it. If you do your own research across all the regions in the world, especially KPL, you don't even need to watch them play against global teams. Only in KPL, the hero itself exists, and it is used specifically for this sole reason. So I would say it's not a matter of whether they had enough research, it's a matter of confidence. And yeah, they didn't want to risk it. That's all.
Yeah, it's definitely with more execution more than anything else. I'm not too like, I understand that like hero picks can be game winning, definitely have an edge going into a game, but I don't think that it's like they picked this draft, we have nothing, we're completely out. Like there's still definitely counter picks. There's definitely that strategy in the depth of this game. So while they might have had an edge pulling out some of those niche picks, it's all about execution, right? And at the end of the day, the KPL teams definitely executed, right? So they're gonna well-deserved victories for them, right?
But you will get your wish. So boosted, if you want to see the KPL teams play with global teams earlier, I think end of year championships, it's different. No, it's not KIC. It's another one, right? You will get your wish, and then let's see if that really makes a difference, right? If they get to play from day one and get to see and research those play styles, the way that they pick the heroes. And we'll see whether that offers a different result or not. Because at least from what we can see, or maybe just to put myself out there, I think at least from what I can see, the differences will be minimal. We will see an increase of like maybe more invasions, a little better restraint in team fights. But will the overall result change? I don't think so. But we'll get a tighter series, guaranteed. I think I agree with you for that. I think if they get to experience a little bit more KPL gameplay in global patch, maybe there might be a difference, but we'll see.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But let's continue on. Let's talk a little bit more about there's 3 tournaments that are coming up. We don't really know how the format's going to work. We don't know exactly how which teams are going to be even invited from what region or whatever, which is of course like the Malaysia Open. I think that's what they're calling it.
The region
Then
clash?
there's the region clash.
Region clash.
I think,
okay.
Yeah. Do you know how this is going to work?
The 3 regions, right? So from what I remember, it's champions of their own region, IKL, PKL, MKL, and then there's like voted teams. So for like one qualifies through being the best, and then the other qualifies through being the most voted. At least that's my memory of it. Please do not think that that's the correct information. This is just something that I remember. So it'd be quite interesting because as we've already seen in KWC, these 3 regions are going to be very close. Very close. Yeah.
I think that's the most exciting part with these 3. Although, to be honest, it's a bit of an advantage, I would say. Just because, like, to these the teams that are playing, you're talking about how all the losses can turn into learning experiences, and going up against these three, like, is just going to help accelerate these guys, right? And I think that that's going to be an edge for them. Like, if you're looking at some of the KME, KMLS guys, like, they're not going to be invited to this, or even Chuck BR, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's other regions that are not getting the same amount of exposure, and you need some of these games to really kind of fine tune some of the, you know, your gameplay, right?
Okay.
So look, I that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know who's going to be invited, how they're going to do it. If it's the champion, I mean, it makes sense if it's each of the champions and the voting in. That would be interesting too. And it becomes more of like a popular vote more than anything else. But that could just be step one, and then going into that as like an in between from the regional leagues to the KIC, which is the global team champions.
Okay.
And that one's going to be in the Philippines. So talk me through that one.
Okay, so KIC I think is going to be very interesting as well, because now let me reference it to last year. So last year's championships in Indonesia, after EWC, I felt like some teams were going to come back much stronger, but they got crushed really early on.
It was rough.
I think Genji was one of them. Genji, and then what was one more team I was rooting for?
Whatever team you rooted for was going to lose anyways. It's like the kin curse, right? That's how it works. Go on.
Yeah, but they did not impress, right? So that's the biggest thing. So I think for KIC it's going to be quite interesting, because now that they have had a glimpse of what premier quality is like in the form of KPL, are they going to be able to replicate that? And the biggest question for me now is, I think Nova is kind of like a mini KPL team. Not KPL standards just yet, but they have definitely learned, and I think they will learn a lot faster than the other teams. Also because they have the experience playing firsthand, they got their first win. While it may have been a research game, like you said, for TT Global, kind of like, okay, what do you have, right? Let me see what you have. I think Nova might be the new monsters. So
I think so too.
Yeah, and then this is where they look. I love Nova, but they will become a villain. This KIC, yeah.
No, I mean, I will always root for them, especially going up against. They're pretty much the global team's champion, right? If any team is going to have any sort of success, this is the team that you kind of rest your laurels on, so to speak. I think that this is a very, you know, a team that has that potential, and we'll kind of ride that one out. To get to the whole the nemesis level, I think that we're still not there yet. But basically, hang on. If there was any team in last year that was like the nemesis, would it be BSE then? Because they were like the champions and they were kind of running away with things at times. In the same idea, same logic that you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like Nova was last year's BSE, where a lot of people are like, you know, in their minds and their hearts, it's like Nova is going to win this. It's not about whether Nova is going to win, it's how Nova is going to win, right? I think that was the same kind of thing against BSE last year. And then hello KPL teams, and then just boom, gone.
Yeah, actually, the whole shakeup in the MKL is going to be interesting. Seeing exactly, because that, again, the strongest region thus far, right? Outside of China. So to see exactly what's going to happen moving forward, there's a lot of interesting storylines. Roster changes. We've definitely been hearing of some. We're not going to go into the rumor mill right now because we don't know.
One new one. Okay, but I cannot share. But today's
okay, you're gonna have to tell me that one later. I don't know if I heard that one.
It's been announced, and it's a local player here.
Interesting. Okay, we'll talk about that one later. Okay, so we've talked about KIC in Manila, the Philippines. I don't know how many teams. I don't know the format with all of that.
Yeah, not yet.
As the last stop, I believe the top three in that KIC are going to move into the Challengers, which is the final one with all the KPL teams and the streamers and all that stuff. Are these enough tournaments to really get those lessons in to really stick it to one of the KPL teams?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Like, look, I think you need a lot of practice, and
I know. Yeah.
Okay, if we talk about game versions, yes, obviously the Chinese version is quite different, right? I think KWC, yeah, has already mentioned, right? They're playing on a completely different patch. They're different heroes. Even certain items are different, right? So I don't think it's going to be something that it's you can prepare for. Like,
Yeah.
how do you go to the gym and suddenly lift like 100 kg? It takes
Yeah, you take some
years of
steroids, you take some TRT, you get on a good diet plan. You gotta cheat, basically.
but you still need time. You can't just one shot everything go in, right? So
Yeah.
I think yeah, it takes a bit of time. We'll see. Like
Okay.
maybe we get some upsets.
Yeah.
Upset. Okay, wait. Let's define what upset is. Upset means they take 2 games in a best of 7, or they win a series.
I feel like if any of the global teams were to win a series, that team needs to be expelled from the KPL. Straight up.
Ooh.
Right? Like they have no business being there, right? Like you have a new champion, you got to call this team daddy at the end of the day. I think that would be that would make some serious waves, right? But jokes aside, I do think that taking 2 games off of any of these teams would be a huge win for them. But I really want to see that upset. I think that in challengers, and I'm seeing like 32 teams there. Nova can beat one of those other teams. There's no way that they're going to be like
Agree.
bottom 3 because
agree.
I mean the global teams, right? Like there's no way. Nova is definitely good enough.
Oh,
Where?
is my internet dead? Sorry, I missed that last whole portion.
Yeah, you were cutting out a little bit. Yeah, but basically, like Nova Esports, in my opinion, is got to be like, I would say top 18, if anything, right? I don't see them being any lower the 20s and 30s unless there's like a huge disaster in terms of like group draw or whatever, right? I do think that this is a team that could potentially make some waves there.
Oh, for sure. I think, as you already said, right, if there's any team, it has to be Nova. But
Yeah.
if we take a look at the lower trenches, I think I'm also curious to see the growth of like ACT. Who else am I interested to see in that growth? I want to see Nongshim OG, Twisted Minds, ACT. These 4 teams. I think the 4 of them have the potential to surprise us. But only if they have done their homework. Yeah, only if they've done their homework.
You said Nongshim, and that's my trigger point. I'm like, this is it. You know, I want them to be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time. Like, this is a team that I feel has just disappointed. Right? I had such high expectations, and I was like, look,
sorry.
I was
Vitality also.
that Vitality. Yeah, I know, but Zankyu, man, like
Yeah.
let the man like he has that potential. He has the it, if anything, right? And he has a lot of. He's such a personality. He's a great guy to have in the league. You want to see more of him, and the fact that he's actually got the skills to really play to that confidence that he exudes with every single interview that he's done. This is a guy that I want to see just more of.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, he was trending on the Chinese TikTok, Douyin. Yeah, because of his Jing performance against TT Global. So that's kind of crazy. And yes, Lamer, KGL teams. So Paula KGL teams, do you know what that is?
It's like the academia or whatever.
So they're the tier 2 teams, right?
Yeah.
And I think global teams have a chance of beating KGL teams.
I do agree with that. Yeah.
So but when I say defeat, I don't mean like 4-0 kind. It's going to be
no way.
close. Like 4-3.
Definitely close. Yeah, and that's why it's going to be exciting. I think that like not only do we see more KPL, which is something that like I definitely want to see personally, right? But if they're able to play on the same, dare I say, global platform, because you know what I mean, as opposed to having Nova like all of a sudden learn the Chinese version, which would be very difficult in that sense. New heroes, new things, right? They would have to be exposed to that. I think that would be a difficult step up, but I think that if the teams are kind of been like, hey, you're playing on our meta on this version, I think it would be more fair throughout. I think we could see some potential waves. Who knows?
Okay, we have one question. Speaking of Nova, any update
Oh
on
gosh.
Nova's head coach? Okay, so If I have
Careful.
an update, I will tell you, but I don't.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, whether I'm telling the truth, you never know, but whatever.
Yeah. So
Nova with the series experience, they beat half the KPL teams in Global League.
I don't know about that. I think you see some of the bottom rung guys, and I think that the level of plays, like it's going to be KPL teams all throughout, and like the streamers and like the AGL, like the KGL, and all these other teams that are kind of like in that mid tier. And I think that Nova can really fight into that one. Maybe the lower class like KPL teams that have kind and qualified, maybe they get lucky.
I think, okay, so I had this conversation with a couple of friends before, and this is with regards to Olympics. Okay, so Olympics, the world's best out of the best, right? And what they suggested was we should put an average Joe to compete in the same tournament so that you can tell the major difference between what the average Joe does versus like global elites.
So I'm playing in the Olympics? Is that what's going to happen? Because I'm an average Joe.
Hear me out. You know, Tencent, Timmy, Level Infinite, if you're watching, put us in. Show the audiences what an average Joe team does against like KPL streamer teams, global teams, you know, and then audiences might understand, like, you know what, the gap is pretty big. Yeah, and I would love to play.
I'm going to go a different direction on this one because I'm going to use the whole breakdance Olympics situation, right? When they brought it in, you had your average Joe in ray gun, right? As average as you get, maybe even below average, right? Shots fired, I know. But this is something that the people don't need to see this. They want to see the top tier breakdance because they lost their bid at the Olympics because of having an average Joe. I think that they need to learn their lessons, Honor of Kings that is, and not have an average Joe team.
I think everything is worth the risk. You try it once. If it's not for you, it's not for you.
Disagree.
This is going to be the intro for the podcast.
Okay. Yeah. I think that would be funny. Yeah, let's not. We cannot have the average Joe, please. I think that we show the best.
The average Joe.
No, you make it as competitive as possible, and you show the burners, the bangers of a series. Show match, fine, but to a certain degree, but not average Joes, man. Okay. We don't need another ray gun from Honor of Kings. They're gonna be like, oh, everybody's like this. They made the Olympics.
No.
Right?
Show match, give them a story, all right? Talk about how hard we've trained as talents, right? Or look, I've practiced this hero for how many months. This is my specialty hero. This is what I'm gonna do to opponents. And we get crushed.
Oh God. I disagree immensely on this one. I am not coming to terms with you on this because I just think it's a bad idea. But yeah. Okay. Aside from Olympics, that's something that's coming up in 2026. So there's actually a lot of events that are coming. There's a lot of headway in terms of just like where this Honor of Kings esports is going. I'm excited. I think that there's going to be some great potential moves in terms of like roster and how teams are really going to want to play this, especially with these 3 big events coming up. Again, a lot of money being thrown out there, a lot of prestige, and having that opportunity to go up against some of these KPL teams and to get some of those lessons, even moving into 2026, would be huge. But that said, I think we're getting closer to the end here. Any sort of final thoughts, at least on the Honor of Kings side, before we close?
Western side of the world. BTK, right? I think BTK coming in is a huge thing. We also have like the big 3 in the form of Doggy's team. And yes, I got that GOAT title. I don't know whether Holler has it. You have it?
I don't think so.
It's okay. It's a golden title that says GOAT.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so I'm very curious about the NA side, right? And the Western world, because I do surf on Twitch a little bit every now and then, and there has been an influx of HOK streamers in the EU region, in the NA region, and they're getting better at the game, right? Are they the best? No, not yet. No shade, just you guys have a bit more learning to do. That's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone is having fun. So I think with the introduction of the Western part of the world for HOK, it could be very interesting, right? Especially when we have experienced players in the form of BTK, Bloodthirsty Kings, for those of you that don't know. And what was surprising to me was, okay, so I do watch the streams of Hoon Fried Chicken as well, and they're learning really quickly, really
Yeah.
quickly. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see their presence.
Yeah, actually, I'm excited as well. I think that's the biggest thing is like the growth, right, from all these things. But look, when you say BTK, I'm always like, some of the fans that are like watching only them and see them dominate, they look amazing, right? But like a big fish, small pond kind of thing, right? And I think that we've seen this even in some of the other regionals where you know, I'm not going to name names. I don't need that shade right now, but I think that you got to look big picture, right? I think that if you're checking out some of the KPL teams and you're seeing how they play and how the best of the best, so to speak, then when you watch your only, you'll see some differences, right? It's kind of like watching like professional basketball versus your, you know, intramural basketball league. Not to say that there's that big of a difference, but you'll see that the play is different, right? And to kind of really put some respect on some of these other global teams, as well as, of course, that KPL, where you're going to see the best of the best.
Yeah, okay. Realistic view, look, I feel BTK is going to get a lot of punishment in the first few tournaments. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of punishment, and then it really comes down to, are they going to be able to, number one, hold their head high and understand that, hey, this is part of the learning process, and number two, like, I actually like the trash talking, like. Okay, as overall, in terms of esports title, I think trash talking is good. But there's a very thin line between like banter and then actual like unprofessional behavior. And I think as long as everyone understands that line, because that line can be blurred sometimes, I think we're good. Yeah. I think we do need a little bit of that spice.
Agreed.
And I think it's quite fun.
Yeah, I kind of, it's funny because when you're seeing Zancu and you're kind of seeing him like in that limelight, he is such a personality, but he's not really trash talking the other teams. Right? He's fun to watch and everything, but we do need that, dare I say, that heel of the show or the Honor of Kings esports scene. Like, I feel like I could be that guy. Like, my trash talking is amazing, but my skill just doesn't like live up to that same level. So, but I think that we do need more of that. I think it's going to make things definitely more interesting to watch, and you're going to be like, hey, this is a guy that like he kind of sounds like an ass at times in terms of like his personality. But I think it makes for a better show because you can't have just nothing but good guys. And it seems like if we're looking at the Honor of Kings esports scene, almost everyone is a good guy, right?
We don't have a villain yet.
We don't have one yet. Yeah. But I can name some names. No.
It will be fun. It will be fun. Like I'm so curious because end of the day for us, okay, for me, I think esports, it's entertainment, right? And sometimes having a villain is a good thing. But we also have to keep the villain safe. Like
Yeah.
There is a villain line. What's worse than a villain?
What's worse than a villain?
Yeah.
Isn't the villain the worst thing like you could be?
No?
Like
Okay. Just okay.
in good and bad?
Yeah. A villain is necessary in order to have a trait of entertainment, right? There needs to be that fine line. But you don't want that villain to turn into someone that is verbally, mentally abused all the time because he's the bad guy of the title, right? So as long as that line is not crossed, I think that would be super exciting. I want to see who is willing to step up in HOK, at least on the global scene, like a villain, because look, a villain is also not that easy to be. A villain means that you are able to back up what you say, which means you have to have quality, right? You have to be a strong team as well. So if BTK is going to be that said character in this whole storyline of HOK Global, then damn, they're gonna be super strong. Yeah. You need to be strong to be a hero, you need to be strong to be a villain too.
Yeah, like I feel like if you're gonna have like you're talking about Nova potentially being that arch nemesis or whatever, like they have the receipts, right? They have done quite well for themselves. If one of them wanted to go rogue and to become that villain, I think that'd be the perfect storyline because again they have everything that you need. Like dare I say, like Schwan, like I mean, if he started trash talking, like his game is already next level, but his trash talk, he's so quiet, right? Where if he were able to pick that up and and just like get in people's faces, like this guy, you would be like hate this man, right? Because he's so good.
It's so clear that he's an introvert. So
I know. I love the guy. And I don't want him to be the bad guy, but I just think it'd be hilarious because like when he makes those plays, you're just like, oh my god, coming from the back, like controlling it. And if this guy was like a vocal, boisterous dude who's just like in your face, like I completely screwed you guys with my Razor Cavalry or whatever it was, like you know that he would be like the perfect villain for this. But
actually, I think the perfect role for a villain is the Clash laner. Because the Clash laner most of the time would be the person responsible for catching the entire team. So it's like
exactly.
if he catches you, you can't say shit because
he already have it.
The hell?
Yeah. That could be. Maybe we'll talk to him. Be like, hey, maybe you should say these couple things. We'll script it out, like what you need to say, and so like you know what I mean. He just like reads it as he's playing. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah,
that'd be quite fun. Okay, so
right.
I think that's it. We've been at this for what, an hour? I think an hour is not bad, right?
Not bad for day one. Yeah.
Okay, so it's been fun. It's been your favorite kind of tofu, and I think moving on, we'll be quite busy. So we'll see. We'll try to make this weekly thing. Yeah, weekly thing, and then I think for now let's just do an hour at a portion. So the next time we're on, if you guys have any questions, I think actually one of the things we can do is to like make a poll for any questions that people want to ask. So the next, the next one that we do, maybe some of the things that people are curious about or things that they are interested in, we can find out about it. And then also, obviously this show is between the two of us for now, but we would like to have other people on. So if there's anyone that you guys want to hear, speak to, and sometimes it will be interesting because we might get to interact with people that we may not necessarily interact with all the time. Yeah, that would be cool.
Once we find out the next coach of Nova, let's try to get them on. I think that'd be spicy. Yeah.
We can text Noel.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
We will catch you again next time. This has been Team One Take PC podcast.